Have you ever said something in anger and, just deeply regretted it a second later? Picture this. You're in a high-stakes board meeting, the pressure is literally off the charts. Maybe a key vendor completely drops the ball, and suddenly, bam, you feel this overwhelming surge of emotion you just can't rein in, and you snap. Hey, it happens. It's a totally normal human experience. But when you're in a leadership position, the blast radius of losing control is just too high. The stakes are way too immense to let a temporary feeling dictate a permanent outcome.
So there's actually a massive, defining divide in how leaders handle this kind of intense pressure. On one side, you've got the reactive leader, someone who's basically at the mercy of the emotional storm, letting every external trigger dictate their internal state. And on the flip side, you have the emotionally sovereign leader. Look, emotions are incredibly powerful biological forces. No doubt about it. But emotionally strong people, true leaders, they learn how to manage these forces instead of letting them hijack their operations. It's literally the difference between being a victim of your own neurochemistry and being the absolute master of it.
Welcome to this explainer, which we're calling the architecture of emotional sovereignty. Think of this as a direct tactical briefing tailored specifically for high-performance leaders like you. Far too often, emotional regulation gets brushed off as just some soft skill or, crazy enough, a sign of weakness. Well, we're going to completely dismantle that myth today. We're breaking down exactly how you can transform emotional regulation into absolutely one of your most critical tactical assets in the field.
Here's our quick roadmap for this explainer. We're heading 5 crucial phases: tactical awareness, the strategic pause, cognitive control, strategic expression, and finally, achieving sovereignty. Let's dive right in.
Phase 1. Tactical awareness.
The absolute foundational step to controlling your emotions, before you do literally anything else, is actively diagnosing your internal state. You know the saying, you can't manage what you don't measure? Well, you also can't control what you haven't even identified. Notice this specific operational sequence: awareness, then pause, then thought control. The main reason so many leaders fail under pressure and end up making these fatal, career-altering decisions is because they skip straight to reacting. They bypass this entire structure and act without ever really understanding what's going on inside their own heads.
So here's the game changer. You have to implement a mandatory self-audit. Before reacting to any trigger, maybe it's a super aggressive email or a disruptive comment in a meeting, you've got to pause and ask yourself a deceptively simple question. What am I feeling right now? And this can't just be an afterthought. It needs to become a deeply ingrained, almost instantaneous reflex.
Is it anger, fear, jealousy, or is it just a compounding, generalized stress? When that internal chaos fires off, your job as a leader is to categorize it. Think of it kind of like a bomb squad trying to identify the exact right wire to cut. Understanding your emotions in real time is exactly what gives you the upper hand. The second you name the threat, you neutralize its immediate, overwhelming power over your nervous system.
Moving on to Phase 2, the strategic pause.
Now, this is where we need to completely reframe how we view silence in a professional setting. Listen, silence isn't hesitation. It's actually a highly calculated leadership power move. A strategic pause is literally just a couple seconds of intentional silence, but man, those few seconds, they can save foundational relationships, salvage massive business opportunities, and honestly, just preserve your own peace of mind. The blunt reality of leadership is that not every single emotion deserves a reaction from you. A brief delay is basically a tactical shield that protects your most critical assets from your own self-sabotage.
Here's a takeaway you really need to internalize right now. Sometimes the absolute strongest, most dominant response you can have is just staying perfectly calm. Think about it. In a high-stakes, high-pressure environment, everyone in the room is bracing for a volatile reaction when things go south. When you hold your ground in silence and just maintain your bearing, it's the ultimate show of unshakable strength and discipline.
Which brings us to Phase 3, controlling the mental narrative. All right, now we're shifting from immediate reactions to the deeper cognitive level. What's fascinating and frankly kind of terrifying is that your mind actually manufactures your emotions based entirely on how you're thinking. Uncontrolled thoughts actively create these really unhelpful emotional states. For example, constant negative thinking literally manufactures physical stress in your body. Endless overthinking, that generates clinical anxiety. These are manufactured states and they directly compromise your operational performance and totally cloud your judgment.
So we have to flip the script completely. We need to shift from being fixated on the problem to being entirely solution-oriented. When you train your mind to focus relentlessly on solutions, rather than obsessing over the roadblock itself, something pretty amazing happens physiologically. Your emotions slowly become way easier to manage. You're effectively taking your brain's immense processing power, pulling it away from generating panic, and pushing all those resources into generating an actionable strategy.
All right, phase 4, strategic expression.
Let's talk execution. There's a really vital difference between suppression, which by the way is a failing short-term strategy, and healthy expression, which is actually sustainable. You don't want to suppress your energy, you want to redirect it. So here are some highly actionable tactics to channel that intense emotional energy productively. Instead of bottling it all up until you inevitably explode in a meeting, go for a brisk walk to reset your nervous system. Write your thoughts down to get the chaos out of your head. Pray, meditate, or take deep, regulated breaths to literally force your heart rate to slow down, or simply talk to someone you trust. These aren't passive weaknesses. They are active, strategic protocols used by top performers every single day.
And I want to be absolutely clear about something right here. Emotion control is not about becoming a robot. The idea of becoming totally emotionless is a complete myth, and it's definitely not the goal. The true objective? Becoming mentally stronger. True leadership isn't about never feeling the weight of the world or never getting deeply frustrated. It's about managing those incredibly human experiences wisely so they actually fuel your mission instead of derailing the whole shebang.
And finally, phase 5, achieving sovereignty. The folks who ultimately win in life, the ones who achieve true operational success and really command respect, they aren't the people who never feel emotions. No way. They're the leaders who have mastered this exact management protocol. So, how do we start? We start small, by executing some daily operational directives. Pause more, react less, think clearly. Look, these concepts are super simple to understand, but make no mistake, they require rigorous, daily discipline to actually master.
But the ultimate payoff for that discipline is just massive. As the source material reminds us, with this really powerful realization, once you control your emotions, you start controlling your life. It's a high-impact reality, for sure. Internal mastery absolutely dictates your external outcomes. When you become sovereign over your own mind, you become sovereign over your results.
So I want to leave you with a final provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer. The tools are now firmly in your hands. The framework is fully set. Knowing what you know now about the incredible power of the strategic pause, cognitive control, and redirecting your internal energy, how are you going to respond to your next high-stakes challenge? Are you just going to react to the chaos, or are you going to lead through it?